Okay, Brad, how do we do an intro? Playing?
What's up, YouTube?
Yo, what's up, YouTube? It's me and your boy Bradley, dog. So, Rag's playing Frosty K. His guild's progressing on Araz very early in progression, and they're having problems with ads. So he reached out to us, and we're helping figure out a couple of things. Brad, what were those things? It was what? Boss up time, opening rotation, ad up time. Like what were the big ones?
So I talked about uptime because a lot of the time was spent chasing ads. Part of it was rotational, but a lot of it was just situational, as in things he was doing wrong in the fight and how he could improve DPS.
So I remember one of the big things was his keybinds were like insane, and I think a lot of people don't think about that. I remember when we first watched it, one of the things you pointed out was that he was having to do like a Tekken opener combo fatality thing for what you have is like a one button macro. The buttons were so difficult to press that it probably missed like 3 GCDs just to like do the hand movements to type in the key combination for the opener.
Yeah, bro, like half of them were on shift. It was something. It also made him lose like 2 whole seconds just hitting buttons when everything should have been pressed.
All right, so I guess we can watch this. The keybinds do look different, so this is a little bit better. Do you know what button he has the one button on, and what do you have in the one button?
Okay, so 8
Okay, I see
is his breath and pillar, or his mark and pillar rather, and his equal sign is his breath macro.
Okay, I'm assuming he has a mouse or something to hit those. He doesn't have really long fingers.
I really hope so.
Ideally, if we walk through this, Brad, what would the opener be for Frosty K on Araz? Because Araz has the ad spawn like 28 seconds into the fight or something. It's very early, because I know on Ellie I can send on poll, and then my CDs, like my opening CDs, not Ascendance but everything else, comes up like 2 seconds after the ad spawn. So do you even send anything on poll?
Nope. As Frosty K, you sit there and you wiggle your around for 28 seconds and you don't really hit anything.
All right.
You stack your bone grinder, and that's about all you can do.
All right, so we can see an opener here. I actually don't know when they start polling. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we go in, we pull. So one of the things that I remember we saw right away, and this is something that a lot of like especially melee players get griefed on, is this. So I actually played with this guild a little bit, and one of the big things that we had them start doing, or maybe they were doing it before, but I really drove the home point to Rag here to make sure that this was happening for him, was having a shroud up. So if you're in a guild and you have a rogue and they don't shroud every time before pull, that's a really big problem. I mean, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but the other VODs we had, he had to walk like 4 seconds to get to the boss, because like if you're melee, right, you can't just start next to the boss in auto tag range. The boss will just aggro and hit you. So you have to wait for the tank to run and hit the boss, then you can run in. Shroud lets you literally just stand right here. So like this already is giving him what, like another 2 to 3 GCDs. Which on a fight like this doesn't matter as much because you're not doing your opener right away. But on bosses where you're like lusting on pull and slamming everything, I mean, that's you're maybe missing like 2 to 3 seconds of lust. It's pretty bad. So that's like massive tech if your guild doesn't do that. So we see here doing okay.
I don't even think he's tracking bone grinder, if I'm being real.
Yeah, I don't know. So bone grinder is what? What does bone grinder do?
You stack it up to 5 stacks, and when it pops, you get 20% frost damage. It stacks from spending killing machine. So ideally here, before the ads come out, you stack it so that it's ready, and you get your 20% damage when the ads come out.
Okay, and you stack killing machine by spamming obliterate, right? So ideally here, what you send.
No. Killing machine is spent by obliterate. Killing machine procs from a wide variety of things.
Yeah, but so ideally here, you're smashing and you're pressing obliterate until you have enough bone grinders to where you get the frost damage, and then you want to hold off a killing machine proc so that you don't proc the frost damage before the ads, right? Because like you do the same thing on Shaman. Like you can build up a Tempest, but you don't want to hit your Tempest. That's going to send you into Ascendance until something happens, at least in M+, right? So it's like the same So if he's stacking bone grinder, then he could know, okay, I'm about to unleash my load. Let me hold off on the obliterate until the ad spawn if we're going for maximum paddage here. One thing I'll say
ideally, you stack it up to 4.
Stack it to 4, and then it procs on 5. Okay, so one thing I'll say here that is good. something that I don't think a lot of people think about. When we pull the boss here, the pillar here is the first one that activates in the top left. So this pillar up in the top left underneath the black note is actually the first one that activates to send out the balls. And it's not that important when you have the one active, but something that I like that he did is he kind of tilted his camera towards the pillar so that he wouldn't just randomly get hit in the ass. I doubt he's gonna keep the camera in. Okay, so do we want to talk about the movement here? The movement here, I'm not a fan of. It seems really minor, but something that you'll notice, and like this is the really min-maxy stuff that makes a really big difference, especially if you're playing a class that is very uptime dependent, is you'll see here, up until now, the pull's been great, right? Like he positions well, he's on the boss the second the pull starts. As Brad mentioned, he should be tracking Bone Grinder. There's a couple of things he could probably do differently. He's facing the mechanics that are happening. He's aware of what's going on. But I mean, nothing's happened on the boss, right? So as soon as something happens, which is we're going to have the first portal spawn or the first soak. Ideally, I mean, you can't always do this, but ideally as a melee DPS and in some fights is ranged, you want to know where your tank's going ahead of time so that you can kind of be ahead of them or move with them. So you see right here immediately, he seems almost surprised that the boss is moving because the hitbox is way over here, right? And he hasn't moved yet. So the tank's already at orange and the melee DPS is not moving. So what that means is in exactly half a second, he's going to be out of range of the boss. So this is a fight knowledge thing, 100%. Knowing, even in fights where it's random, that, okay, this mechanic's going to happen and the boss is either going to get taken to orange or diamond, and that's going to happen when this timer hits 3 seconds. Then you can be on your feet, ready to go, follow your tank, don't lose uptime. Like that kind of shit is super, super important, especially when it comes into something we'll probably get into is like cooldown usage. Knowing when you're going to have to move or when something's going to happen and preparing for it is like one of the biggest things in playing higher end content. So that's like massive, especially when you're playing something slow as shit like a DK. Yeah. Anything on that, Brad?
I have yelled at my tanks before for running away from me. Like, as DK, you either have to spend your movement to catch up if you catch yourself in this position, or if you're out of movement, you just cry.
Yeah.
So knowing when they're gonna move is very big, and where they're gonna move.
And so that's on your tanks as well, but it's like it's on you as a player to know whether it's something that you're doing wrong and can do better, or something that you need to bring up. So like your raid leader, your tanks, or whoever that needs to be for you to be like, hey, this is griefing the melee DPS. Can we talk about it, right? The other thing that I'll see here is now that we're in this situation, right, that Brad mentioned, that it's like, okay, you're out of range of the boss. What do you do? Here, he should have moved forward, and I don't know why he didn't. I don't know if he thought there was a ball here and like he can really see through the ground effects, but he like cuts to the left here. This is easily missing like another global or two in like that little L shape. Like, again, this is stuff that seems super minor, but this is the kind of uptime that makes like a massive difference, especially if you're hitting your like high value buttons. And also, I don't know if DK has anything, if it's even worth to like send anything at range. A lot of classes do, not as many melee, but especially ranged have a lot of things they can cast while moving. So that's you basically, you don't want to have dead time on a fight ever, unless the encounter forces you to. Like on Dimensions, you to fly, you're on your mountain, whatever. But if the boss is not immune, you don't want to have a single second in the fight where you're not hitting the boss unless you're being forced to do a mechanic that makes you not hit the boss. And there's very little times where that's not true. So I don't know about on DK if there's anything you could be doing here, because I haven't played it in a while, but do you have anything on that, Brad, for DK specifically?
I mean, it's pretty minor, right? Like you would just hit Howling Blast, not overly, right? Because you don't want to spend all your resources, but that just like if you have a Rhyme proc, you spend Howling Blast at range, gives you like Killing Machine, gives you CDR on your rune weapon. Even if it's not doing a bunch of damage, it is helping your economy a lot, which is what you kind of care about, especially at this point in the fight. Like he hasn't hit any buttons, he's kind of just waiting for the ads to show up. So anything you can do to have your economy be ready for the instant they come out just makes your burst a lot higher, a lot quicker, a lot more consistent.
And when we say economy, like let's break that down a little bit, because this applies to a lot of classes and it's things people don't think about. So one of the things is keeping your character in combat, not in combat, but like actively hitting abilities on things, because there's a lot of items in the game, like cantrip effects, specifically trinkets are a big one, that the difference between hitting a Howling Blast that does like negligible damage versus not, that's not something that's visible on your logs. And this is where like a lot of people kind of struggle to hit those like significantly higher logs or higher damage numbers, is missing out on some of the stuff like this. So the difference between like someone who logs, let's say, a 85 on a boss and Brad, who's hitting a 99 or 100, is not only good rotational play, like good luck on procs, whatever, etc., but it's these minor things where the difference of well moving, hitting Howling Blast here and there, which is in turn giving an extra prism to stack, maybe proccing an extra antenna orb right before your burst window. Like, the Howling Blast is doing no damage, but if it were to proc an antenna orb versus not right before his breath window, that's like an insane amount of damage. So when we talk about economy, it's yes, your rotational stuff, but also the items like your embellishments, your trinkets, anything that can stack or has a chance to proc. You're basically fishing for that stuff, you know, even if you're having kind of like a quote unquote dead global, right? That could give you another prism stack, an antenna proc. It could stack your Dark Moon deck. Like, yeah, you just never want to have dead time on a fight, ever, ever, ever. It's really, really bad. It's one of the biggest mistakes people make, especially casters.
Even if you're not hitting an ability at all, DK can proc Killing Machine off auto attacks. So like if you're not hitting any buttons and you're just not in range of the boss when you could be and getting those auto attacks to proc Killing Machine without spending your rune weapon, that's just saving you a lot of time. Or like a lot of resources as well, right? Because you're able to save your rune weapon for higher burst, for getting Bone Grinder when you want it, for higher damage, like for a lot of things. So uptime is really important.
So here we're going into ads here in a second. So we have the first soak coming out, not soak, but the first ad spawn area. And we see here right away, the team is moving over to drop the ads here. Something that we'll see here that I actually didn't notice in the last VOD is he is using a reminder note. This is something that's super useful, especially when you're newer to fights and you don't want to be thinking about when you're hitting your buttons, is to plan it out a little bit ahead of time. So I do like this a lot. So we'll see here the ads drop. So something that's, you know, as a range player on this fight, I haven't really thought about, but Brad, are you staying on boss here, or do you kind of pre-position in an area where you can hit the ads basically as they spawn and follow them?
So, especially as DK on this fight, unless you have an ad drop on you, you stick on the boss. A lot of your abilities are frontal owned, so you want to be aiming at the ads. So his position here is fine. Maybe aiming a little bit directly at the ads a little more, just to ensure everything hits. But I mean, this position is good and what you would kind of aim for in this situation.
Yeah, also loving on the DPS meter, we have Brad's owner. Shout out Brad's owner.
Hey, man.
Because, yeah, so this is good. He's lined up against the ads. We're going to the DPS window. So here's something that doesn't affect him as much because he's playing DK, but this is something I brought out. Actually, he fixed it. Wait, he fixed it. Okay, wait, I think I love this. Okay, not fully fixed. So the last time we watched his VOD, and this is kind of hard to tell because there's a lot going on the screen, but the last time we watched one of his VODs, something that happened that Brad mentioned isn't really a big deal for DK, but is a really big deal for a lot of other specs in the game, is you'll see here, he has the boss targeted when these ads are in, which is fine. Like, he's hitting the boss, cleaving off, is what he should be doing. But you'll see here, the boss then runs away, and you see this red circle around the boss. He's still targeting the boss, and now the boss is behind him and out of range. He's playing a DK, which means he can just mash Frost Scythe, which is an untargeted ability. If you are playing literally anything else in the game, this is a huge problem that you need to make sure that you never do, because this will actually grief you hard. I mean, if we take the example of DK, he's in breath right now in his breath window. If he were to have the boss be at a range behind him and he wasn't able to shit Frost Scythe, he would be missing globals and his breath would die. Like, this is, even if you're playing DK and you can avoid this, I'd get in the habit of target swapping to hit something that you're actually able to hit, right? You will see, like, as soon as this,
it goes back to like the auto attack thing as well.
Yeah.
Like if you're auto attacking something while in combat, it helps your economy a lot, gives you Killing Machine, even in breath.
Yeah, so that's really big. So you'll see here, he's still targeting the boss at this point. He swaps over to the Echo, which at this point, personally, I wouldn't have even done yet for two reasons. Number one, he should have been swapped onto the Small Eyes as soon as they started moving Araz out of the way. Number two, actually, there's kind of 2 points in that. Number two, the boss is out of range. And number three, the boss is still immune, or the ad, excuse me. So, like, he can't even hit it if it was in range because it's immune. It's not in range, and he could still just be slamming on these ads. Another super minor thing, I can't tell which way his character is facing, but in this point, he'd still want to be facing on those ads because he's still in breath window. He's 6 seconds on breath still, and it's a conal ability, right? So So this is good. Another thing here, like, it's kind of hard to tell. He might not be in range of the boss. I'm not sure of the hitbox. I haven't played melee on this fight. Looks like it gets a little bit closer. But yeah, this is a really big thing on melee. Making sure you have the right targeted and make sure you're standing close enough to them to actually hit them. Like, I know it sounds super obvious, but it's something that people miss a lot on fights that have a lot of movement, or where you're like swapping targets a lot, and they just miss a ton of damage over the course of a fight. Because it's like, yeah, it's a 1% damage loss here and there, but over like an 8-minute boss fight, that's a lot of damage. So here, Brad, he's setting up, or I don't know if he's setting up, actually, you tell me. So right now he's killing the Echo, which is fine. I know a lot of guilds just send ranged on this, but they're in progression, so, you know, this having everyone swap just to make sure it's dead is fine. He has ads coming up in, like, what, 10 seconds, 11 seconds? At this point, as DK, is there anything that he should be setting up for? Because I'm assuming you can pillar pretty much every set. Is there anything else, like you mentioned, building up any sort of procs, like holding anything to make sure you have the highest burst possible on the ads?
Kind of, right? Like the biggest thing, especially on this fight, because it's so burst heavy, is making sure you can have Bone Grinder stacked for every ad set. Because you'll have Pillar, you'll have Mark for every ad set, right? So ensuring that, one, your Reaper's Mark pops on all the ads on top of the boss, and then getting those exterminates off before everything moves away will increase your damage exponentially, right? Because if you're hitting Reaper's Mark and the boss is running away and it's exploding on the boss that's ran away, you're just losing infinite damage, right? Like, it's not exploding on anything. And so that those ads live longer. If you're not hitting the ads at all with your Remorseless Winner, you're losing a lot of mastery. So a lot of the setup just comes down to making sure your Bone Grinder is stacked and ready to pop, as well as you can kind of hold rune weapon charges for killing machines in your pillar window. That way you can ensure that, like, your mark pops as fast as possible. But yeah, because outside of your cooldowns on this fight, you're doing sub tank damage, right? Like, you're not trying to min max your damage now, you're trying to min max what you can do in your burst.
Yeah, it's the same for a lot of DPS on this boss specifically, and that's something that just comes with practice, like knowing what you should prep for. This is especially a big thing in M+, so we were getting M+ VOD, we'll probably talk about that a lot, is knowing when to save resources or build resources for the next burst window. This is a really big thing for pretty much every spec in the game right now, which is almost all of your damage comes in cycles during cooldown windows. And a lot of specs have like procs, gear sets, trinkets, like whatever. And it's really about kind of building up to have the biggest bust of all time when you're in those windows, especially on a boss like this, because all that matters on this boss, especially in progression, is killing the ads as fast as humanly possible. And it makes the rest of the fight significantly easier. So see here, they're going to kill this big ad. Circles, these are really easy to deal with as melee. You just really have to pay attention that you're not going to have one come through the boss. I don't even think this would one-shot you as DK. This mechanic's pretty rough as ranged. If you're playing like a Warlock or something, you can't cast while moving. Keeping uptime on this is pretty hard, but here, same deal. He's back on the boss. This is good. We see ads coming here. Good, staying on top of the boss, staying in melee range. Here, he's going to need to pop his cooldowns to kill the ads, like Brad mentioned. He needs to make sure that Reaper is exploding onto the ads.
Hold on. Go back to right before they spawn.
Right before they spawn.
So right here, look.
Yeah.
So his cooldowns are coming off, right?
Yep.
His pillar and his mark are both at 1 second, right? And so play it for a sec. Here, pause. He hits before they spawn, which is exactly what I asked him to do. Because if you're waiting on these ads to spawn here for you to hit all your buttons, your mark will not explode on the ads. Either they'll be dead, or they will have run away if your group isn't good at CCing them, or a lot of things. You can kind of control this, right? Like, you can halfway control how much your mark stacks, or like how quickly it stacks, right? Because it stacks from frost damage. So any frost damage you do applies stacks. So what I did here is I asked him to hit it before the ads come out. Because they're not good at slowing them down and CCing them, that way when they spawn and they run on the boss, his mark will be popping. That way he gets that explosion damage and he can cast his exterminate. That's actually exactly what I asked him to do. So I'm really glad he did that.
Yeah, that's big. I mean, we'll be able to see here exactly what you're talking about. So we have ads spawning. They're coming through. As you can see, they run right in. I mean, already we have the vortex down, which is going to help keep the ads in there. Wait, hold on. Did we see
Yeah.
this? Did the mark explode? It looks
It
like
exploded
it did.
there. So it
Yeah.
might have exploded maybe half a second too early, right? Which is a minor thing. Obviously, you can adjust around that. You can also track your mark stacks a little better rather than it just being on the nameplate. But I think him hitting it early there was good. Even if it popped a little early, it allows him to get that exterminate on these ads and still do a lot of ad damage. In an ideal world, he either hits it a second later or he notices that the ads are not on top of the boss yet, and he can kind of stop doing damage for a global or two.
Yeah. And that's just something that comes with experience, right? And part of that's UI. I don't want to spend a lot of time on UI because they're going to gut the shit out of UI next expansion anyway. So, I mean, the idea here and the execution is still correct for the most part. Here, he did a much better job of swapping. So, Araz runs away and he target swaps. So, big fan of that. You can see here, like, realistically, and part of this is out of his control. Ideally, these ads are no longer alive if you're progressing this boss. Because the problem that you're going to run into is you just start falling behind. Because what we have now is we have these manifestations that are half health, almost to the pillar, and we already have the next ad set spawning. So even if they were to kill this next manifestation set, they're already kind of just permanently behind. So not great. And what sucks here is he also gets the ad. So these ads are still alive, and now we have, you know, a melee player running to go drop, which means there's one less damage on one less DPS player on the ads. I'm assuming they're going to wipe here from that. It's like, yeah, see what I mean? Like, even if they potentially were able to recover, like, they're not fully wiped yet. One thing I'll say about his UI is it's hard for us to tell what's going on. He doesn't have raid frames. So we don't know the status of the rest of his raid. Yeah, so like I said, this is a raid problem. This is hard to fix personally as a player. There's things that can still improve, where honestly, I mean, as one player, you can almost, if you play well enough and you're a strong burst class, you can almost carry this mechanic by yourself, the ads. But these ads being alive for this long, if you ever have two sets of ads alive at the same time, you're probably just cooked, because this is exactly what happens, right? You just get overwhelmed. So now they're late to these ads. These ads are already out of the circle. They're already out of the CC. This one didn't get vortexed, and they're above 90% health. And now they're about to hit the collectors too. Like, it's over, right? That is a harder ad set. Did he get hit by a ball?
Possibly.
I think that might have been a ball. So this is a positioning thing. Let's see if he gets hit by a ball. No. Okay. Regardless, he might have right there. You see that ball. So one thing I would say as melee, this is a positioning thing. You can hit the boss from any of its sides pretty much. You can see the circle of the collector here, this ring. The orbs spawn from this ring. If you're standing this close to it, unless you have the reaction speed of like a CSGO pro, you're not going to dodge this orb if it spawns right there. So I would just stand a little bit further away from it. These ads being alive going into the collection phase isn't a massive deal, but it's definitely a problem. In early progression, guilds were having this, and your ranger kind of finishing them off, but being above 50% is pretty rough. Brad, I know you did progression on this boss really, really early, so I'm assuming you guys had a similar issue happen here, but to a lesser extent. This is bad. This is not ideal, especially if you're not coordinated.
There's a lot of things that can go wrong with them, right? Like, every second they're up is another potential for you to miss a CC, or one doesn't get rooted. The faster you can burst that down, the more problems you can tend to avoid. And especially if there's other mechanics happening, being able to avoid trade-offs like that by just having them dead already just makes the fight a lot simpler and gives you one thing to focus on at a time.
So I don't think we have good footage of the collector phase here from him, but we can kind of see from pole to pole how this kind of goes on. So obviously they're going to reset here, going to the pole. So again, starting off with the shroud, pretty much everything here should be the same. One thing I noticed is I don't know how this really plays out. I'm assuming you guys talked about this. It looks like he's sending double empowered ruin weapon on the opener. What is the reasoning behind that, Brad?
You're mainly spending them to stack your bone grinder, right? Like at the start of the fight, because using power ruin weapon gives you a killing machine proc, right? And every killing machine you spend gives you a stack of bone grinder. Especially early on in the fight, when you're not hitting buttons, your most reliable way of getting killing machine is through ruin weapon. So I don't think spending both charges here is bad, but you also don't want to spend them while not paying attention to your bone grinder, because if you spend both and you're getting a lot of procs from like auto attacks, you can easily get to 5 stacks before the ads come out, and then you're losing 20% damage, right? And especially not having that in your biggest burst is a big loss on damage.
Yeah, and
so
bone grinder's up here. So we don't know if he's tracking this. I'd assume he's not paying attention to it because it's not in his weak aura here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
he's definitely not.
Something else that I'll notice is that he never calls in his pet. You know, that's a big 0.1% damage buff, and it's super important that you have that so that it can brick your plus 19 streets. That would have been like a world 25th key.
It is free. It is free.
Yeah. GG. So this is a good melee spawn. This time we don't have to have the boss move, which is good.
Yeah, so here he wants to be facing at the ads, right? Like positioning's fine, you need to be angled to the left. Obviously the ads are still have their shield on them right now, but what a lot of people can forget about is it might not be a DPS increase for him to have turned already, but any minor adjustment you can do before things start happening makes it easier for you to do things when it matters, right? Like if you're angled away from the ads and then they spawn, you don't just have to hit all your cooldowns. Now you have to look at the ads. But if you're already looking at them, all you're worried about is doing damage. So it takes a little bit of the coggy load off, if you will, being able to like make those adjustments before they matter.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in breath, the only thing you want to think about is keeping breath up as long as possible. And it's the same with any cooldown. Like you're playing Shaman, you're in Ascendance, your only goal in life when you're in Ascendance should be get out as many spenders as humanly possible during Ascendance. And it's the same for every cooldown class in the game. This is again going back into like, for most classes in the game, the gameplay loop is set up for your next burst window. And knowing when those burst windows are and how to min-max the setup is like the whole game. And a lot of the rotational aspects are easy, right? They're on Wowhead, they're on whatever, you can read them in logs. It's these minor things that you don't think about that make it harder to pull that off in a stressful environment like progression. So yeah, that's a good point, because you'll see here there's multiple things. Frosty Caves, all their abilities are conal, so if you're not facing the right direction, you're missing damage. So we can see here he kind of just waits for that to walk into them, which again, that's a minor damage loss, but it's still a damage loss. Here we have a similar targeting issue. One thing that I'll notice here as well, it's very hard to tell because we're not watching it like live. We don't have any button tracking or anything what's going on. But again, we had the same targeting swap issue happen, and you can see here we have the boss running away. So right here, he doesn't actually miss anything, and he does a good swap. But something that I'll say, I think here he tab targets, which isn't bad. Tab targeting is fine, but my recommendation would be, because I use tab target sometimes, like I think everyone does to an extent, but I would try to get in the habit of, when possible, to manually select your target and get in the habit of doing that, even if it's not necessary for this fight, or maybe it doesn't make sense, especially if you're into doing Mythic Plus. Having that be your muscle memory reaction to swap targets is pretty big, because in Mythic Plus, and actually in a lot of raid encounters as well, normally there's a singular target that you want to be pinning most of your priority damage into. And so just hitting tab normally is going to pitch you on a shitty target. Sometimes this melee can even be really stupid and target something that's not even in your range. But if you make it the habit to click on your target, and that's just something that you'll start doing every time. And then same thing here, a lot of dead time walking. So even when we're walking, so we'll see here, we're on these ads. We have this ad targeted. Right now we're in between the two sets. Like in my opinion here, commit to one or the other, right, Brad? Right now he's kind of in between. I don't know if it's better here to follow the ads or to stack onto the echo. I guess that kind of just depends on what he has stuff on already, like from a debuff standpoint, or where he's going to get the best uptime. But he kind of does this jiggle in between, ends up missing a global or two, and then ends up running to these two. Again, super minor movement. Part of this comes down to their raid's ability to keep these ads clustered. These ads shouldn't be split up like this in the first place, but just something that you have to think to play around. And then here, same
also,
deal.
I can't help but notice his Pillar and Reaper's Mark are 7 seconds apart on their cooldown remaining.
Uh-oh.
Which they are macroed together, but what that leads me to believe is he hit his macro on a target that either wasn't in his range or was like behind him. So his Reaper's Mark didn't go off, but his pillar did.
Okay, well let's
just...
see. We can hit it play by play here to see when he pillars. So he hit the macro right here.
So what happened was,
yeah, let's hear it.
He ran out of runes. I'm assuming obliterated because it's single target, and he went down to no runes. You can see under his nameplate he's got 1 rune, and the rest are on timers. But since Reaper's Mark costs runes to cast, it's on cooldown, right? Like it's that 4 seconds is until his next rune comes up, and his pillar went off. So 1, that's desyncing for the entire rest of the fight. 2, now the boss doesn't have Reaper's Mark on it before the ads come out, so it's not going to pop in time. It just spirals completely, especially in a fight like this where you want your cooldowns to be spent like instantly on cooldown to line it up every set. I'm assuming he just didn't notice that he had spent his rune. He hit his button and didn't notice he was runeless, and yeah, that is very bad.
Yes, this goes back to setting up for cooldown windows, right? Because if your whole gameplay loop, and this just comes to knowing your spec. DK is one of these. You know, a lot of specs are, right? As long as we play in our M+ comp, right? Arcane Mage is one. The BM Hunter spec that Hanan plays right now is one. Ellie Shaman is one, right? Like pretty much every spec in the game now is this. This comes down to not just rotational knowledge, because anyone can look at a rotation from the APL, from Wowhead, and mimic it, right? It's easy. You can install Hakili, you can press the buttons, it tells you, and you're gonna do within 10% damage of your sim. The problem is when we get to cases like this, bosses are not single 5-minute target patchwork training dummy exercises. You have moments like this where the fight kicks off and you can't just do what the APL would do. You can't just hit what Hakili tells you to do. You can't just pull out the muscle memory from the training dummy. You have to know, in 45 seconds, I need to do this, which means a couple things. You have to know to hold your cooldowns is step 1. That's the easy thing, right? But then it's like what Brad just talked about. If you go into here and you hit your Swifty one-shot macro and you don't have runes to cast one of those abilities, it desyncs all of your for the entire fight, and now it's cooked, right? We talked about before about the Bone Grinder stacks. That's another thing, right? Your whole gameplay loop as Frosty K is building up for your next pillar, for your next Reaper Mark window. And everything you're doing between the, 45 seconds that you're doing between those should be, your entire life is devoted to stacking up as much juice in your balls as possible to make the load as big as possible.
Well said.
Because now we'll see here.
I mean, it's it's about how he recovers too. Like he doesn't press Reaper's Mark immediately. Like you could get the runes with Empowered Rune Weapon or a Frost Strike or whatever, and then get your runes.
Well, we talked about that. He actually spent Empowered Rune Weapon on the pole. We talked about why he might have been doing that. But we'll see here. It's like Brad said, I don't think he realized that didn't go off, and that just comes down to fight knowledge, right? Like knowing that you shouldn't be spending your runes, right? Knowing that, hey, I need to have 2 runes at this point in the fight, and just paying attention to that.
But even if you get up a little bit, like you can recover within 1 global if you notice, right? But he just probably doesn't notice, so he doesn't do shit about it. So then they get more and more desync the longer it takes for him to react.
Well, it's worse as Frost DK. So his runes took 4 seconds to regenerate. So then they come up now. Now he has enough runes to cast Reaper's Mark. And he just doesn't notice that it didn't go off, so he still hasn't hit it.
Yeah.
Now he's hitting it. Exactly. Now he hits it right now. Now we run into multiple problems. 1, it's desynced. 2, it's not going to blow up on the ads, right? Or a high chance it's not going to. So this is a really big problem. See, like right now you can see the boss ran away with Reaper's Mark on it. GG. Damage is great.
Oh, GG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's so troll. That's the most troll part, is putting his Reaper's Mark and then not touching that mob.
Yeah. And so that's solvable in the fact of, yes, you should always have 2 runes going into that when you hit your one-shot macro. But also, if you hit it and you go, oh, I don't have enough runes, and you have an Empowered Rune Weapon charge, which is off the GCD, you can hit that, and then your very next global can still be Reaper's Mark.
Exactly.
So it's still desynced, but it's not nearly as egregious as waiting for your next rune for 4 seconds. So it's definitely like solvable in the moment, but that's like very quick problem solving that can just be avoided by some foresight in moments that nothing is happening again.
And see, now we have an interesting thing happen here where you can see he button mashes the macro. Reaper's Mark is not off. That causes the pillar to go off early again. So he's in pillar right now. And now they're also going to soak. Not sure why they're doing the soak right there.
I don't agree with a lot of their strats on this fight.
Yeah, so that feels like you're just murdering the people dropping ads.
Yeah.
But again, this comes into two things. So number one, he's doing that soak because he's one of the soft immunities for that. So this again comes into knowing what your role is in the fight. So he knows he's gonna have to do that soak. So why did we hit our macro, which is desynced, right? So he hasn't hit Reaper's Mark, and you're in pillar. So you should have waited a second to hit this in the first place. But if we know we're gonna go soak, we should not be hitting that, right? If you're gonna do the soak,
in this situation, that's wrong. For instance, if you go away, soak, come back, and then hit your buttons, you're missing your cooldowns for the entire rest of the fight. Like GG go next. So what I talked to him about is if you're assigned to this soak, the second soak, it happens at the same time that you need to be pressing your pillar and your mark, right? And what you have to do is understand, okay, this is gonna be a really bad pillar, but if I don't hit it now, I have to wait 45 seconds anyway. So I'm gonna hit it, I'm gonna get it on cooldown, and I'm gonna have slightly more damage, or like less damage than I would with like an ideal window, but it's better than either holding it and not aligning it, or not hitting it at all for the next 45 seconds. So that's a little minor thing that you have to kind of work around because that soak is bad. But if you're assigned to it, like you either tell your raid lead, like, yo, I'm hitting a lot of buttons here and I need to be on ads. And if they still need you to soak, you hit your button and then you run away.
yeah, because I mean, this just makes the problem worse. Like, because now pillars hit, you got no uptime on pillar, but you also didn't hit Reaper's Mark, so now they're desynced again. The worst case scenario here is that you walk back in and then you hit Reaper's Mark. The other piece here is the soak position, because I also think it's not that bad if you do send and then have to go soak if the soak is in a better spot. You just have better uptime, but that's a different problem.
Yeah, like this is something that during Prague I told my raid leader, I was like, yo, like I'm not soaking, like I can't, I will lose infinite damage. But then on reclears it's like, okay, well, you know, comp's gonna be different every time you're gonna be on soaks. Your damage is going to be a little bit lower, but if that's what your raid leader needs you to do, you can't really sit on pillar until after you get back. So you need to send it before and lose a lot of your damage there, but it helps you keep all your abilities aligned for the rest of the fight.
Yeah, then that just comes down to learning how to be a little bit greedy as well. Because if the soak is in a good spot, you can send pillar, you can send mark, you can pump out a couple globals, maybe hit some howling blast for running away or something, right? And you can still milk out a little bit of damage. But yeah, their soak position there is pretty bad. It's almost impossible to do anything, and it was desynced because, like, ideally, what you throw your Reaper and pillar on there, you pump out some damage, and then even if you're to go soak, you come back, you're still getting a little bit of milk out of that Reaper's Mark versus just not hitting it. Now we're gonna have ads come up again.
Yeah.
He has ads. So what I'm interested to see here is whether he recovers from the pillar desync mistake, or if we're gonna exacerbate it further, or if we're just gonna die. We just die.
That's funny. He didn't pop the first mark. The second mark went on with no pillar, and he wasted it in their second pillar, or second one I saw at least.
I mean, these are just really common mistakes, right? So let's see here.
Yeah, like especially if you're not tracking very like visibly to you, you know, you hit your macro and you go, okay, yeah, my ability just went off. But if the only way for you to tell that you didn't hit it is a little icon in the middle of your screen that you aren't paying attention to because you assume it goes off, then it's very easy to let a few seconds go by before you go, I haven't got my extra exterminates from it exploding, or something like that.
Just look at your runes right before you press it.
I mean, that too, yeah. There's a lot of things you can do. You can also
not sending an empty obliterate right before you send. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, like you can also hit empower rune weapon before to like ensure if you're not, you know, sure. Yeah, there's a plethora of options. And also like more consistent, right? Because every time you mess that up, the ads are infinitely more healthy than if you had hit them, and if that leads to them running away, and it's just a wipe.
We had the exact same issue just happen. So this is a really big problem that he's running into a lot. Same thing happened. One ruin hit the macro. Reaper's Mark's not on the target. So this is like number one thing for him is fixing this problem, in my opinion. Like we have some uptime issues and some other minor things, but fixing this is a huge problem. Because look, I mean, He got it a lot faster this time, but we're 4 seconds desynced. Not only are we 4 seconds desynced, but now Reaper's Mark is on the target 4 seconds late, which is going to mess with all of your damage.
That was close. I couldn't tell if the Reaper's Mark popped before it ran away.
Yeah, I'm assuming it didn't. Well, this is pull 3, I believe.
I didn't even know. Does Reaper's Mark do AoE damage when it pops?
Okay, so this is pull 3.
Damage.
So 2 Arcane Echoes on pull 3. Yeah, it did not hit them. At least I hope it didn't hit them, because this is pitiful damage down here. So let's look at this. Let me pull this up really quick. Dude, Brad, you suck at this boss. Imagine
All
not.
the ads die before I can touch them.
Okay, let's see here. So enemies, Arcane Echo. Wait, you really just don't be with the ads.
The Echo's the big one.
Oh my god, wait, you're right. Oh, I'm stupid. Wait, let me fix this. Okay, that looks better. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Okay, so we can see his breakdown breath at the top, and Brad has Exterminate, Frost Scythe, Reaper's Mark, and then breath. What is supposed to be your top damage here? Is yours correct, or did you just proc out of your ass here, or what are some key differences that you're just seeing between these two sets of logs on the first ad set, where you're kind of popping everything all at once?
My Exterminate crit percentage there is 80%, which is slightly abnormal. Won't lie. You should expect like 50% crit there. And Exterminate should be close to your top damage.
Why?
How many times did he cast Frost Scythe?
Why does he
compared to me?
not have
cast it
Exterminate in his breakdown? Can you
Because
explain it?
Reaper's Mark didn't pop before the...
Yeah, because the ads ran away before he got it.
You get Reaper's Mark when it pops, so... Or, sorry, you get Exterminate when the Reaper's Mark pops, so...
So hitting that on ads is big, right? Like it's a lot of damage. And if you're not getting that because of the boss running away, or it not popping in time, or facing the wrong way even, like you lose a lot of damage.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a 10 million DPS difference on this ad window, and Exterminate's
Really from the 4 seconds, yeah.
Exterminate's doing 20 million there. Okay, so we're going into Soak. This is interesting. Okay, so there we have the CDs back aligned. This is good.
Yeah, so this is exactly what I told him. Look, he hit his buttons and then he runs away to Soak. It sucks. It's something you have to do if you're assigned to that Soak.
He did get meleeed by the Echo here, which is
Okay, well,
unfortunate.
that's unfortunate.
That is unfortunate. But he did do the right thing. So I will say, damage breakdown on this fight should be, the DK should be on the top for this first little chunk in like most cases.
Well, or like Sub-Rogue. There's a lot of like super bursty classes there. Like Frosty K is among the highest, so is Sub-Rogue. You are the ones that should be highest burst on a lot of the ads, unless you're Peg Warlord.
So here's an example. So this is one of my kills. This was a decent Ellie kill. Ellie's really good on this boss. As you can tell, manifestation damage is really strong. But even then, I'm the top damage across the course of the fight. If you look at this first 30-second window, I'm getting absolutely gapped by the DKs, and it's not even close. Like, they're just decimating the ads before I can even do any damage. And even then, when we look at some of these other ad sets, where, I mean, they're still just absolutely destroying the ads in their burst windows. The only reason why my damage to the ads overall is higher is because my damage is significantly more consistent than the DKs. But their burst is absolutely disgusting. Like, the reality is, for this raid team, all of the problems that they're having with the ads, to an extent, is on the DK shoulders, the two DKs. If the two DKs play pretty much perfectly, they're borderline soloing the ad sets, in my opinion. I mean, the Arcane Mage is helping on, you know, maybe the first and third set, but like, they're gonna do a ton of the heavy lifting there, and then the Ranger kind of just gonna cleave it down. Everyone else is just cleaving them down. The DK's burst is strong enough to just wipe the ads off the face of the planet. If your guild is having problems with this boss, even if it's only re-clears, and you have two Frost DKs, they gotta be exterminating this. They're not able to progress the fight at all because their ads are just not, the ads just aren't being taken care of. On this poll, for example, the one we just watched, let's look at deaths. We know he died to an auto attack. Let's see. Oh my god. Arcane Obliteration doing the work.
I think it's the ad reaching the pillar.
Yeah. So this is just ads not being taken care of. Unfortunate. Let's go to, let's just look at all wipes. Let's look at deaths. So yeah, 49 deaths to the ads not dying in time is absolutely insane, especially when we say, okay, let's ignore events after player deaths 3. Almost all of our wipes are to Arcane Obliteration and Prime Sequence. So Prime Sequence is the dodgeable orbs, I'm pretty sure, right? 26 deaths to avoidable stuff, and then the remainder are to the ads. So it's a mix of the two, right? The raid's dying to getting hit by balls, and that's making them not be able to kill the ads fast enough, which is causing all of their problems. And if we look at the ad damage across every boss, the breakdown here, I mean, not looking great. Again, the DK should absolutely be obliterating these. The Arcane Mage damage is fine. This is definitely, I mean, they're just going to have problems consistently. These ads have to just get exploded. It's concerning having a Boomy be this high up because they take so long to ramp their damage. Like, realistically, the ad should be dead before the Boomy gets to play the game. Senator Pole coming in. See if we have the same rune problem. One thing that I'm noticing is, and I don't know how big of, I mean, you're not in burst window. He doesn't seem to play around his antenna orbs very much. Like, he just kind of leaves them sitting there a lot. If you have this antenna trinket equipped, it's very important that you grab these orbs. It's the only reason the trinket is good is if you grab the orbs that give you the stats. Like, they come to you eventually, so like when you're not in your cooldowns, it doesn't really matter. But you kind of want to pay attention to those. Here it might actually work out. He kind of like just let the orb sit for a second, and he picked it up going into his cooldown windows. Yeah, that's a minor thing. So here we have Mark and Pillar lined up. This is good. That's a rip. The boss is gone. The exterminate is not happening today. So Brad, what do you do here? Did they move the boss too early? Did the damage not happen fast enough? Like, why does this keep happening to this poor DK?
Okay, so something else that happened, if we want to just pause already, is
He didn't send
breath is not on cooldown.
Oh,
Breath has not been pressed.
all right. Yep, I'm seeing that now.
So we're hitting our pillar and our Reaper's Mark early. That's good. It's at 19 stacks on the boss. The ads have spawned. They're about to start running in. That's fine. What's not fine is the breath has not been pressed because it's already 4 seconds off desynced. So his mark's at 37, 40, 50. Boom. It popped. So we're good. It popped on the ads. That was beautiful.
Okay, so that we're all good there. That's beautiful. Not beautiful that one of the cooldowns can get pressed. So this is pretty much every single poll we've watched. One of the cooldowns in the opener is not getting hit. For
We still haven't hit breath.
we still have not hit breath.
So this, besides not hitting breath, was fine. The boss ran away, but that's fine because the marks already popped. It looked like he retargeted onto the little ads and then exterminated them, which is fine. It's beautiful.
In this case, he's using Prism and Antenna as his 2 trinkets. Does it make sense in this scenario to press your, like, what, you probably have like 3 or 4 Prism stacks in that first breath window, or is it better just to try to stack it up for your second breath window?
So on this fight specifically, you can kind of hit Prism for a variety of things, right? Ideally, you save it for damage amp, because that'll give you the most damage and the most effective boss damage. But in this case, if we're not killing the ads in time, and our problem is the ads getting out of control, you could only send it on breath, you could only send it on ad sets that you know are low on damage. But yeah, not hitting it, in theory, is fine, because you want it for damage amp, but if we're not progressing the damage amp, then we're just sitting on it the whole fight.
One thing I'm noticing as well, and this is my question as not a DK player, do we not have to hit D&D really anymore?
Never.
No.
Okay.
No, they
got it.
removed it. D&D only has a slow associated with it.
Because I remember in the first VOD, he was lining up and missing like 3 or 4 globals to get that D&D placed ahead of time. So knowing that he doesn't even need to hit it at all saves him a ton of globals. But yeah, I just wanted to see what the thought was there.
All right, we've got pillar up in 2 seconds. You should hold it for a second. This is fine. You should hit it right about now.
So
Okay, we
here,
haven't hit our buttons, and we're running away from the boss.
Nope. He hit pillar. Look, pillar's on
Oh
cooldown.
no!
So, yeah, and so what happens here if we watch it very carefully? What is going on here?
Very bad things are going on here. Wait, why did Mark not go off?
He hit pillar when he was running towards the soak.
I gotta frame by frame it here. Okay,
He hits it.
so
That don't add up.
he hit the macro wall on the GCD, Bradley.
Did it not spell Q it?
It did, but then he runs
And then he
faces
looked
from
away.
the boss. So this is
Why
a,
doesn't breath go off then?
he doesn't have runic power.
He didn't hit his breath
yeah,
macro. He hit his
and
pillar
breath
macro.
breath is desynced. So let's talk about, this is a very cool World of Warcraft mechanic, especially if you're new to the game. You probably have no idea what we're talking about. So what's happening here is you have the GCD, which means you can't hit certain buttons. Pillar's not on the global cooldown, so you can hit Pillar whenever you want, which is why you're able to macro it to Reaper's Mark. What Brad mentioned when he said, well, didn't it spell queue it? What spell queuing is, if you're not familiar, is if you hit a button while you're on the global cooldown, the game will automatically make that the next button that it will process in like your spell batch, right? So if you're spamming Obliterate over and over and over and over again, and you're on the global cooldown, the game's going to hit that button for you immediately when the global cooldown comes up, even if you don't hit it the second the global cooldown comes up, if that makes sense. It just makes the gameplay a lot more fluid, especially with latency and stuff. But you have to kind of be aware that that's a thing for situations just like this. If you only hit the button a single time, it should automatically Reaper's Mark. But you'll notice here what happens is he hits the button and then he turns and moves away from the boss. And this makes it to where he can't hit Reaper's Mark because the target's behind him and out of range. And so it cancels the spell queue. So we once again have a desync happen where he pillars without Reaper's Mark. Pretty much every time that's happened, it's been for a different reason, right? We don't have a ruin. We're hitting it when it's not on the GCD. We're out of range, right? There's all these little reasons. And this is like the biggest no-no in all of Frost DK gameplay. Outside of not hitting breath. That's rough. So then, yeah, I mean, we're going to have the same problem here. I mean, these ads just live, right? They're living. So like here, again, your guys' problem as a raid is the manifestations surviving. Even if the raid leader's saying, hey, we got to kill this echo, I would make sure these manifestations are dying as personally as myself as a player, if I know that we're constantly wiping to this, because I'd rather get that situation fixed and then figure out how we can kill the echo, rather than just kind of wiping over and over again to the ads getting there. But I mean, at this point, the poll's cooked, right? Another thing here, we're hitting this echo, but we have more ads spawning over here. So I mean, we're just wiped. We're done for. Also, I'm lost because I'm a mic DC'd and stuff. Is this the second echo, Brad?
Yes.
Okay, we shouldn't even be hitting this. Yeah, you shouldn't even be hitting the second echo. That second echo.
I mean, technically yes, but if your raid leader is harping on you to hit it, then you can't really control that, which I'm assuming is what's happened.
Yeah.
But yes, the second ad should be ignored and just passively cleaved down by range.
Yeah. Because yeah, now we're going into this phase. I mean, everyone's dead, but yeah, similar problem. Again, the core issue in this raid is manifestations not dying. And as we're seeing, a lot of this is happening because, you know, Rag reached out to us. He wants to improve what he's doing, but I'm assuming a lot of these same issues are happening with other members on the team, and those stacking up causes these kind of problems, right? That's kind of something else that I want to talk about after this coaching session. I think could be cool, which is how to actually improve at the game enough to where you can join into or kind of move up the guild ladder. This is a whole different topic, but let's see what's going on here. So something that I'll see here, and Brad, let me know your input here. Once again, we're seeing like every single poll, he double empower rune weapons. When I looked at your logs, you used empower rune weapon during the ad window. So I get the idea of hitting empower rune weapon to get it on cooldown because you're going to have 30 seconds before the ads even come out, and it's a charge based ability. So do you think it makes sense here just to hold one of those charges, especially when he's multiple times in a row had an issue of not having runes when he needs to pop his cooldowns?
Yeah. Obviously, you don't want to sit on 2 charges. You want to start the fight by using him at least 1. Every time you spend Rhyme, which is your empowered Howling Blast, you get CDR on your rune weapon, right? So ideally, you spend 1 charge, and if you get enough Rhyme procs that you get it back, that kind of allows you to use another one and also still have some during your burst. So you don't want to like use both and then just be completely dry, especially in such a quick burst environment. You definitely shouldn't just like insta use both charges, I don't think.
All right, so we have next set of ads coming out. What I'm focused on is going to be interesting is the boss positioning, because if he puts Reaper's Mark on the boss now and the ads drop, that could be interesting, but we'll see. So here we did get everything in sync and we did hit breath. This is good. But now okay.
So if we go back, obviously the ads aren't super stacked, but also we're letting 3 run away and we're looking at the one that's on the boss instead of aiming at the 3 that are running away.
Yeah.
So we're losing all our conal damage there as well.
Yeah. And again, when we're looking through the logs, you guys are constantly wiping to the manifestations living. So your entire goal in life should be killing those manifestations, right? The boss is irrelevant until you start hitting the enrage on the boss. So now we're on the echo. Again, now we're hitting the echo even though the manifestations are still alive, which again, in this case, from a pure number perspective or uptime, maybe that makes sense to do. But again, in progression, you're trying to do what's best for the team. In this case, you guys are constantly wiping the manifestations, staying alive. Again, I would stay on those until they're no longer on your screen. That's just like a raider thing.
So as a DK specific thing on those, you really only have damage when your mark pops and when you're exterminating, right? Obviously, if you're in breath, there it's a little different, but your main priority is making sure your whole burst gets off on them, right? So if you spend your exterminates and let's say you like lose your breath, right? Like you're out of breath, you have no more exterminates, your marks are like already popped. You're not going to do any damage to those ads. The most you can do is slow them down or stun them or grip them. In that scenario, your main goal isn't to kill them, it's to help your team kill them because you're not doing any damage to them at that point.
So like even right here, because help me out a little bit here, someone that doesn't play Frost DK. So right now he's in Pillar and he has Frost Scythe active. That's an AoE button, right? His Reaper's Mark ran away on the boss and didn't blow up, but at least I don't think. You can see it here. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it didn't blow up on the ads. But also we're in Pillar still. Right, we're in Pillar. We have our AoE buttons rolling. The ads are super clumped up. This is probably the best I've seen it in your guys' polls. But we're here hitting obliterates on the boss. Again, not a Frost DK expert. 6 seconds on Pillar, had Frost Scythe procs. That should probably be sending in the manifestations, right?
Your main goal in this scenario is to get your mark to pop.
Yeah.
You're not going to do any damage to this echo. You're not going to do any damage to the little ads until your mark pops. If you're pushing your buttons this late and your mark is running away on the tank or on the boss, you follow that boss. You get your mark to pop because you don't want that mark expiring and not at full stacks. You want it to pop before it expires. That way you can still get your damage in on the ads.
Yeah, so here he just misses that full window, right? And once again, the ads get very close to getting in. Again, honestly, I will personally message the raid leader. You just shouldn't be hitting the second echo. Not the play. All right, so now we have the ads coming up again. All right, so someone dropped the ad in the wrong place. Let's see if we can see what's going on there. Who has that? Is that a melee that just ran last second? And then they walked into the purple and died. Maybe they're wiping here anyway, but... yeah, we're just wiping here. Oh, no, we're not. Okay. Let's talk about this, Brad. Because, I mean, this poll is kind of going... but I want to talk about this. So right here, we're popping our... boss is immune, which is... we love that. That's fantastic when we're in our burst window. But outside of that, we're slamming CDs. We pillar, we mark, we breath, we're blasting. We're doing big DK damage, right? Boom, boom, boom. We got 35 stacks on the mark. We're chugging. Boom, 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 boom. Then we get the ads on us. Is there anything that he should have done in this situation that he didn't?
Pretty much, if you get these ads on you, you pry into your pillow and you just run to where you're supposed to go. Like, obviously there's a bit of min-maxing. Like, if you have an exterminate charge, you want to make sure you spend that before you run away, because that's a lot of damage. Your main priority is also to not drop the ad in the wrong spot. So you never want to greed too long to where you cannot get to the spot you need to be in. I can't tell if he has Wraithwalk up or not.
He does.
Where?
It's right
oh
here.
Yeah. So like in this, you would greed as long as you... Not as long as you can. You would greed until, assuming you have like 1 or 2 charges of exterminate, you want to get those off before you run away. But after that, your main priority is just getting to where you need to go.
So let me see here, because it feels like these ads are kind of just living. So here, Mark and Pillar up, he hits them right away. So they're in sync here. This is good. He hits everything. He gets a little unlucky. But I mean, these ads they're just alive.
His mark pops now. So he has 2 exterminates and he immediately runs away. Now, he only has 3 seconds until he drops ads. So you can't really greed any harder. The solution to this is hitting your buttons earlier and making sure you can kind of avoid this overlap.
Yeah, and
Because
all this cascades from the fact that he hit his cooldowns late on this second set here because he wasn't on the boss when Pillar and Reaper came up. So Pillar and Reaper are up. The first ads died slow. He didn't pre-move. He has it called here to hit these in 4 seconds, but the ads are spawning in 2, right? Here, he's not sending. Now he's sending. That 4 seconds is the difference between hitting those exterminates and not, because if we look at the situation, if he had hit Pillar and Exterminate like 1 or 2 seconds earlier here, or not Pillar and Exterminate, Pillar and Mark 1 or 2 seconds earlier here, when we get into this next set here that we're talking about, look, Pillar and Mark are on a 4-second cycle cooldown when these ads spawn, right? So these issues that we're talking about, they just cascade throughout this entirety of the fight. If you fuck up your opener, if you fuck up the second ad set, if you fuck up the third ad set, that fucks up the next one, which fucks up the next one, which fucks up the next one, right? So this is like very important to get right, because even if you're looking at this MRT note, I mean, the note here is telling him to hit it. He's within 1 second. I think that might actually be calling it a little bit too late, even based on what you talked to him about, Brad. And especially with what we're seeing in the damage throughput and what's happening with the boss, the mark needs to explode on the ads, and you need to have your mark up in time to make that happen. And here's the time where you didn't, and you actually get like a really good window here. And yeah, you get a little bit unlucky by getting the ads on you, but that's going to happen probably at least once in the fight. And if you had hit your cooldowns a second earlier on every single one of the ad sets, right, and been on time, you would have been able to send your 2 procs there, right?
Well, and this also goes to like the note of, while having like a timeline reminder or an MRT note is good for like a reminder, it's not like a be all end all of exactly when you should hit your buttons, because the player that you are getting them from, like you just open lorbs and you find some guy and, oh, he parsed like number 4, I'm just going to take his cooldown timing exactly. It doesn't always just work out of the box, right? He could be a lot better at popping his mark really fast. He could have like charged up or like held his rune weapon so that he could instantly pop his mark, and that's why he's holding for an extra second. And especially on fights where there's like different push timings based on how much damage your group does, it's even like more, it's even worse. That doesn't apply on this fight as much because everything is very scripted, but that just goes to show you that those like 2 seconds that he's waiting for the note to go off could just be the difference of his personal, like way of playing, not popping the mark in time on the ads. Or even the strat that his guild is using, right? Like the strat that he got it from, the guild he got it from, they could have been keeping the boss a lot closer and killing the ads a lot faster. So there's just a lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah. And again, this is when it comes into play. Log reviewing, VOD reviewing, kind of just paying attention, poll to poll, what's going on. Like catching these things. Again, we've seen pretty much every poll in this raid night. There has been some form of issues at least once with cooldowns. And what's worse than that happening is that happening and you not knowing that it's happening, because that means it's happening very consistently, which we're seeing right now, right? It's happening over and over and over and over again, which just means you're just always going to be behind on damage from where you should be. So let's watch an opener again here. So this poll, he doesn't send. Oh, there we go. There's the empowered rune weapon. Yeah. So I think based on what we've been talking about and what we've been seeing, Brad, it probably makes sense for Rag to hold an empowered rune weapon charge, send the first like he's been doing, get the charge on cooldown so you're not sitting on 2, but try to have one available in case you get yourself in a situation where you're hitting mark and you don't have a rune, just because of how often we've seen that happen.
Yeah, like here he's got to charge back. We can kind of sit on this. We spend it. That
yeah,
is fine. Like, not having Empower Rune Weapon isn't the end of the world, but it's definitely something that helps. Especially helps in getting
Yeah.
your mark exploded even faster.
Yeah, so maybe if he even still sends the 2 and he gets a charge back, but just knowing to hold that charge for your burst window could make sense, right? All right, let's see what we have going on here. Let's see if we can get, as we go through the night, if these poles get stronger. So here we go into it. Hold on. Hold on. I saw something that scared me. Oh no, we're fine. Okay. No, okay. Brad, what's going on here? What's the problem? What do we
Why is
see?
our mark not on cooldown?
Yep. Again, and if you look, same shit happened. He hit pillar, he didn't have a rune. Right? So right here. Boom, we send
Yep.
pillar, we don't have runes. This is a very consistent problem that is pretty easily fixed by either one, just trying to keep an eye on your runes, or two, just holding an empowered rune weapon charge when you're close to having markup. Like either one of those would work. Because now we go into this, and then this cascades the problem, because now we hit mark, it's a little desynced, that's fine, but now we don't have runic power, and now we're not in breath. And now we hit breath. So those ads died pretty quick. That's good. But yeah, there were some mistakes there in the rotation, popping the cooldowns. Let's go to the next set. So here again, we're gonna have the same issue where the pillar and the mark are a little desynced, so it might cause things to be off a little bit. It should be fine here. It's coming up. Like in my opinion here, based on everything that's been happening, how fast you're popping your mark, how fast the boss is moving. Again, it probably makes sense here for you to send your cooldowns a little bit earlier, just to make sure that you're able to pop it on the ads. Because here you send it, boom, boom, boom.
Well, and this fight is also very, very pad heavy, and the people on top of the meters where he's getting these cooldown timings from, more often than not, groups that aren't doing a lot of ad damage and the DK is carrying, right? And that is only viable in the situation that we're hitting our cooldown on the boss, like our mark and our pillar on the boss, and the boss is staying stacked on the ads. Whereas in this guild, the ads are dropping, and within 2 seconds, they are nowhere near the boss, right? So either it needs to be fixed that the CC and the slows on the ads are better. It also could be that the boss needs to be on the ads. Like, look, right here, this is perfect. Exactly where the boss is, directly on ads. That's the goal, right? The whole fight. But a lot of the time what's happening is the ads are dropping and the boss is running away. And so in that case, we have to adapt our damage to reflect that. And the best way for us to adapt that is to make sure our mark pops before the boss runs away. That'll give us our exterminates, which are going to be our highest damage on the ads. And it also lets that explosion hit them. And that's our main priority. So even though the highest parsers on this fight are hitting their buttons 3 seconds later, exactly when the ads come out, that doesn't necessarily mean it'll be the most beneficial for our raid or our group.
Yeah, and I mean from a positioning standpoint, that is fixable with where they're holding the boss. But again, as Brad's saying, you need to play around your raid. Again, you can voice your feedback and see if you can get something changed. But unless you can make that happen, you just have to play around with what you got. And with what you got right now, you got to hit your cooldowns a little bit earlier, or you're gonna miss your whole damage window. So we'll see here. We're going into this. This is gonna be the first ad set. And let's see how this plays out. Okay, there, we're good. We had same global, everything's out. We're in breath. We're feeling good. Ads are out. We're pumping. We're facing the ads. We're wasting a global on D&D when they're already slowed, I think. They're in a vortex. Probably don't need to do that. I'd spend that GCD elsewhere, but it's all good. We're hitting the ads. Did we send everything before swapping?
Yes. Yes, we did.
So that was...
I believe so.
An ideal opener, I think.
It was very good. You've seen details. He burst up to 7.5 mil. Obviously, there's a lot of little things that could happen there, but based on his item level and having 2 Sin Rogues in the group, he did pretty much exactly what I asked of him here. He hit his buttons before they came out by a second or two. His mark popped on the boss. He hit the little ads with his exterminates, and then as soon as his exterminates were done, he swapped out to the big ad. if he were still over on them when they died, he'd lose all that uptime of running back to the big ad.
Yep.
And any downtime is bad time. So we don't want that. That was about as ideal, like gameplay wise, not looking purely rotationally, as he could have played it there with his strategy. So that was very good.
This is the next set. Marks out, pillars popped, everything's in sync. So far, this pull's going significantly better than the others have. Here he has an ad on him.
That's fine. He Wraith walked over.
Yep, he got it.
Big win.
So this ad missed. Didn't get CC'd. So here, I mean, it just comes down to ads not being grouped up. Also, as DK here, you're dry on this set. A lot of classes are dry on this set. This is the hardest set of ads, especially for guilds not doing a lot of ad damage. Like, these really need to be, like, 50% health by the time these pillars are spawning.
Yeah, and there's not much you can do here. Like, he's gripping, perfect. That, as a DK, that's pretty much all you can ask for here. Maybe a D&D if you're not saving charges for when it's assigned. He pretty much did all he could do as DK there. He looked at his details there. You're gonna have to slow it down. He hovered over his and the other guy. So
his was Reaper's Mark, the other guy's was Exterminate.
So ideally, they should both be up there. His Reaper's Mark being his top damage means that on this poll, his mark was exploding on top of the ads, which is ideal, right? Like that should be up there and that should be high. Exterminate should also be up there. So your priorities are getting that mark to explode on the ads and also spending those exterminates as fast as possible when everything is stacked.
Do we know what poll this was?
This is 632.
Getting as many killing machines in as you can too. Like on average is not getting a lot of killing machines off on the ads, which is like your more tangible resource.
This poll.
Let's look like his mark should be up there, but his exterminate is very, very far behind what it should be as well.
So let's look at this opener. So we come in, we pillar, Reaper's Mark, we breath, we rune weapon, obliterate, exterminate, howling blast, frost scythe, exterminate.
Exterminate shows up twice on logs for one cast. So
it swings twice. So glacial advance, frost scythe, exterminate, frost scythe. A lot of dead time here, I think, from running. This seems relatively okay.
Yeah, a lot of that seems fine. We should be spending Rhyme anytime we get it in there. We should also spend our Empower Rune Weapon charges in there if we have any. Hitting Breath refunds a charge. If we went in with no charges and we instantly hit our only charge, that's fine. We should have more going in there, and our main priority should be spending killing machines on Frost Scythe and getting those exterminates out as soon as possible when things are stacked.
Okay, so this is something interesting that you can look at in your logs. So there's 4 manifestations every time. One thing that you really want to look at is when we're looking at Frost Scythe damage, we see hits 12, and you cast 3 times. That means all of your casts hit all the targets. That's really important. You want to make sure that's happening, obviously, and it's easy for it to not happen, especially when the ads aren't super grouped. So this one looked okay. Again, there's a couple of things you can do in terms of, like Brad mentioned, are a little bit more spending on the procs, playing your cooldown windows a little bit cleaner. But in terms of getting into the cooldown windows and doing the stuff you need to do at the times, seemed pretty okay here. I want to see if there's polls where we go a little bit further into the fight. So maybe we can skip towards the end of the raid night. We can't be doing that. This is banned.
Yeah, we're kind of just hanging out in the middle of nowhere.
So here, I know it looks scary. We run a little bit faster, so you're able to go through these no problem. Stopping and kind of like waiting and going around, big loss. Now I see why you're doing this, because as you can see here, our good demon friend, we see him right here walking. He walked right into that. Boom, he's dead. So understand why we're waiting, but try to get a little bit better at timing those things so we don't lose a bunch of uptime getting in there. So yeah, not the best situation there. Okay, mark, pillar, in sync, breath on cooldown, looking good. So again, here the burst window is gonna be a lot bigger if the ads are tanked a little bit more on the boss, obviously. But that's a little bit out of your control. Okay, next ad set is coming out. We have Pillar and Mark ready to go. Okay, they're in sync again. Fantastic. We're soaking. Okay, right here, this makes me a little sad. You're soaking, but you're in range of the boss while still being in the soak. You can just go stand by the boss while soaking this and have full uptime. There was no reason to walk away there. So here, they're actually able to take care of the ads. A little slow, but it's happening. We have this final set of ads. No, there's going to be 2 more, I think. Ads are dropping. He's D&Ding, which is fine, I guess. Everything's still in sync. He gets griefed by someone knocking all the ads away from his Reaper's Mark. We love that. So this is the most dangerous set. This is going into the intermission. So, question for you, Brad, here. Going into intermission when you have these manifestations live, are you going straight to your pillar?
Typically they should be dead by then. So yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if they're at like 10% health, you just ignore them.
Unfortunately, they were like full health, but this is fine. Okay, so I mentioned this a while ago, but this is something that I keep seeing when watching. So you'll see here, right here, we have Pillar, we have Mark, but we also have a fancy purple orb on our screen that gives us 5,000 crit. We press our buttons, and we just don't touch the little orb for the free damage. And eventually, again, it soaks into you. He still doesn't have it. Still doesn't have it. Still doesn't have it. He's literally running away from it. Still doesn't have it. Now he has it. Half of your pillar window, you could have had an extra 5k crit. So, I mean, again, look at your uptime on antenna and logs. If you don't have high enough uptime, probably just equip a different trinket. Trinket's not good if you don't grab the orbs at the right times. Yeah, this intermission is a little rough. But yeah, I mean, I think that's most of it.